Interviewing Time with Deputy Mike.
Deputy Mike. I'm your host, Mike, and today I have a very special guest, Mayor-elect Mark Zuppo. So without further ado, let's go into roll call. Grab your seat and take a seat. It's roll call time. Well, Chloe, you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Chloe Johnson. I'm an Interactive Multimedia student here at TCTC.
Mark Zuppo, Mayor-elect, City of Girard, currently a school board president and part-time city treasurer as well.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, thank you for coming. Well, let's go right into interrogation time.
Interrogation Time.
Mayor, I guess the first thing is let's talk. How about we talk about some of the problems you're facing right now that you need to fix or you trying to fix?
Well, rather than talk about problems, I like to talk about them as opportunities.
There are opportunities. That's good.
A wise
I like
man
that.
once
I like
told me that
opportunities.
there's no such thing as problems, only opportunities. So I think we have an opportunity to upgrade our downtown area. We have an opportunity with our Girard Lake to develop. We'll listen to the community on how they want to develop it. It could be used recreationally, residentially, business-wide. We've seen golf course blueprints up there back when we bought it in the mid-90s. And then we got issues in our neighborhoods that I think we need to address. And I'm a big believer in incentivizing people to get things done, and reaching out and getting input from our community on how they'd like to see things done.
Chloe, you're at Girard?
Yeah.
So tell me your aspects, or what do you think?
I'm not exactly sure. I think everything Mr. Zuppo just said here would be a great addition to Girard. It'd really it'd bring everybody together more and help out the community.
I always liked your downtown. It's a small strip,
Mm-hmm.
but I like it because it's one of those older, I like old towns,
Mm-hmm.
and I like going through and seeing, and that's just, to me, that gives me a feeling of like home,
Right.
you know?
Right. In my, I was in medical device sales for almost 40 years, and toward the end of my career, I was in the corporate account arena, and I traveled to the Northeast a lot. So I'd get into small towns up in Keene, New Hampshire, or Burlington, Vermont, places that kind of off the beaten track. And some of those places, like Keene, New Hampshire, is a blue-collar town, but you'd pull into the downtown area that have a nice little square. There's a little coffee shop, a little place you could have lunch. There was always something there to attract, to keep the locals committing their dollars to their community. And so, we've got some great businesses downtown currently that have been there for many, many years. Want to help support them, and then I want to help bring some other businesses into town. And I think the more people that come into town, into Girard, the better for all of our businesses.
Yeah, well, the one business I think about it every time I roll through is you used to have a uniform shop. I'm trying to remember her name. She's deceased, unfortunately, now, and that's why there's no more shop.
Right.
But you know what? It was one of those where I think she was a little old Greek lady, but
Mm-hmm.
man, she always was on top of it. Once you stepped through that door and she waited on you, she always knew you.
Right.
She knew it was like you come through and she knew everything about you. Bam, bam, bam.
Right.
And it's like your uniforms were always perfect. Not like now.
Yeah.
I mean, they were. I can't say enough. And
Yeah, we had clothing stores downtown. We had
Yeah.
shoe stores downtown. Obviously, we had the theater. Now the theater has been purchased by the city. Wasn't something that I actually was supportive of when the current administration was um, lobbying council to make that purchase. But now that it's purchased, we're going to do our best to make sure that it gets done properly. And I know that they're looking at grants from the Appalachian grants, working through CT consultants to get that done. So as long as we're not spending a lot of our local taxpayers' dollars on it, I'm all for it. And then you can build around that. So I'd actually like to see us establish an architectural standard downtown.
that would be nice.
Would
yes.
be really great. It's something we worked on back in the 90s when I was on city council, was developing an architectural standard and then have an architectural review board. We actually have an architectural review board that was voted on by council in 2017. I don't know that anybody's ever been appointed to it, but it's there on the book, so I plan on taking advantage of that and utilizing that and kind of coordinating a downtown business association through that. I think the Girard Chamber of Commerce was a great group for many, many, many years. It kind of fell apart. Some local business people tried to resurrect it a number of years back. They've tried to resurrect it a couple times. It's just been very difficult. So I think going in the direction of a downtown business association geared towards the architectural standards, et cetera, I think would be more beneficial to us.
And business-wise, you guys have the new arcade thing, right? With
Yeah.
the pinballs.
Right.
That's I have to visit that.
I
Mr.
gotta
Duran
tell you,
has told
Mike,
me.
I was in Cleveland at the West Side Market a couple months ago, and had my grandkids up there, and we were, doing some local, buying some local stuff up there, and they had a little flea market going on across the street, which they usually do up there on West 25th. So I saw a lady that had a T-shirt on that was one of the vendors there. It said Cleveland Pinball League, and I said, "Oh, wow, Pinball League. That's kind of from my era, right?
Yeah.
Pinball." And I said, "Is that big?" She goes, "It's getting huge." I said, "Yeah, you know what?" I said, I'm from down around the Youngstown area." She said, "Girard?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, everybody's very familiar with that place. It's the talk of the pinball world." So I got to
Wow.
give them credit. They've really done something. I think they're only open 3 or 4 days a week, but you ride by there and it's always packed. And I know the council just approved a liquor license for them. So I think they're going to be establishing something there on the outside too, or something. So I haven't actually met those folks yet. I wanted to wait till after last week's election, and I will probably stop by there before. I'm sure I'll stop by there before the end of the year, just to introduce myself and see if there's anything we can do to help them out. But I think it's a great idea.
It is, and the fact that you were a good distance from your own town,
Right.
and somebody bringing that up,
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. And I mean, I've heard all kinds of stuff, like Mr. Drans talked about it, some other people, and I loved it. Well, we grew up with pinballs,
That's right.
and I just love those old machines.
I think these young kids now, some of them are seeing it. They're like, they're getting hooked. Few of the young kids I've talked to really, really like it. Okay, and it's more social. Instead of sitting on in front of your TV at home playing games.
Yep,
So,
and that's how. I mean, we wanted to play games. We went to the mall,
Right.
which I think about how much money I've wasted in
Right.
one of the arcade.
Right.
But Mr. Duran was telling me, like, you pay one flat fee and then
Yeah, I think you pay like $20. You play as much as you want. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
That
I think it's
is.
the Burke family from Burke Paper. So they are to be applauded for their efforts there,
Yeah.
for sure. I think it started off. I remember reading an article by a gentleman that said he was just a pinball machine collector, and he was looking for a place that he could store his machines. And then once he bought that, it was the old Sparkle Market. There was an IGA after that, but it was the Santisi family. Once he bought it, to store, then people started saying, "Hey, why don't you just open an arcade here?" And thought it was a pretty cool idea, and he ran with it. And it's a great business model, actually.
blossomed.
Yeah, really.
Have you gone there?
Not yet. I've been wanting to. Every time I drive by there, I see everybody there, and I'm like, want to check it out,
Right.
see how it is. Heard a lot about it, so.
What are some of the things you would like to see, like in your city, improved?
I'm not really sure. I don't know. I feel like with the theater, that would be cool. Like having a theater in Girard that's just kind of down the road. I know we have like that little cafe down there. That's like the Olgan's Cafe. I think
Olgan's
it is.
Cafe
Yeah.
is the guy. Ahmed's been there for a long time, and my understanding is I think he's going to retire, but I think he's already got someone
Who's going to step in?
stepping in that wants to buy the place. He said that's a really good bit. It's a breakfast lunch place.
See, that's the worst thing when you have a restaurant that's been there forever and it's been family owned,
Right.
and then you get to the point where there's nobody left in the
To
family.
pass it down to. Right.
Yeah, and then you end up losing something that's been such a great trademark.
Right. That's why I was so thrilled to hear. Now, knock on wood, I've heard. There's some wood right there.
Yeah, there
knock
it
on
is.
that. I've heard. I actually know the person that's interested in, and I'm sure I can't say anything yet because I just heard it
Right,
through the
right.
grapevine. But I'm hoping that all goes through because that's an iconic place for us in town. You know, for years there's been a little diner right in that same vicinity. Whether it was Olgan's, for when I was a kid, there was a place called Diamond's Restaurant, Johnny Diamond, and you know, my father was a policeman, so a lot of the policemen were there
Hang out there.
early in the morning, having their coffees, you know, and so yeah, I think it's a great thing.
That's the best, especially when you have the town has your own little special place. Like we were talking, I'm from the Fowler Vienna area,
Right.
and we had size. You know, I
Right.
mean, and that's now it's just a lot.
It's not even a building there.
No, it's all
I think
sadly
we were
gone.
talking earlier. I actually bartended at Size back in 1977, 78, and people used to stand in line out there.
And I was
on-
one of those
on
standing
Friday
out there in
nights for
line.
the fish fries. It was phenomenal. The food was really great.
Oh, they
there.
were.
Yeah, and they took care of the service was great, and the people that were the servers there were there for many years, and they all loved each other. And yeah, it was very sad to see it
Go.
close.
In,
Yeah,
in fact, well, because I was just a child.
right.
So as soon as my dad got home from work, because it wasn't always,
Mhm.
and then we would meet my grandparents,
Mhm.
and they would get there. Well, they lived in Fowler, so they were closer. We still lived in Warren,
Right.
so they would jump into get our spot in line, and then we would all, yeah,
Yeah, no reservations. You had to
you
get
had to
in line.
wait,
Mhm.
and which was like the old days going to the Calabashes like in Myrtle Beach, and you have to get there like. Better get there at this time. You'll be standing in line for
Went to
hours.
Calabash, for 10 years. Went there for with friends to play golf. That's always where we went. Was Calabash, and some of the restaurants there were old school restaurants, and you had to get there early, or
Yeah.
you weren't getting a seat. Yeah,
They're
I can
the
relate.
best restaurants, and
Mhm.
you know that food's like homemade, It's
Genuine.
genuine food. It's not,
Right,
yeah,
nothing like it.
yeah. So, any big like projects you would like to?
Well, the biggest project would be the Girard Lake. Right now, we're waiting on soil borings that were done by engineers. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources has mandated that we check our dam to make sure it's still viable. And they're
Yep.
saying that it has to be able to take 30 inches of rain in 6 hours, which is like, might as well start building the ark at that point. Okay?
Right.
But so the testing's been done, waiting for the results back. If everything comes out okay, we want to definitely start making some plans to develop. I think the long-term revenue stream for the city of Girard is going to come from those lakes.
So I do have a silly question about that.
Sure.
Now, when you're coming out on Niles Vienna Road,
Yep.
and you're coming into Vienna, that the lake is that part of Girard Lake?
That's Girard Lake.
Because they drained it. I remember I was sad to see it
So
drained.
there's two. There was the upper lake and the lower lake. The lower lake, they had to breach the dam.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was a structural dam there. The one at the upper lake is an earthen dam. Okay, so the structural dam needed repair. We actually had Congressman Trafficant We met with him. That's how long ago. Tim Ryan was an aide of Congressman Trafficant's at the
Yes.
time, and he got us a meeting with him, and we got like $2.5 million from him to repair the dam. But as it turns out, it just wasn't even enough to cover it. So they had to drain that.
I remember when they drained it,
Breach
which
it
was
and
sad.
drain it, which was very sad. And if there's a way to bring that back, I mean, we'll look at every avenue possible.
Because I remember everyone's like, "Oh, the lake's filling up," and everybody was happy again because, well, it was sad. That was another thing. You're driving down that road. It's a landmark. I mean, you look out
Right.
over towards the lake.
So,
And,
if you were coming south on Route 11 before you get to Tibbetts-Wick, the one on the right, which is now drained, that was the lower lake.
That's the lower
So
lake.
I can't remember which was which. One was called Girard Lake. I think that one was Girard Lake. The other one was called Liberty Lake. Okay. When we bought the both of them from Aqua, Ohio, back in the mid-90s, I was a city councilman at the time, and I was a big believer in that because we were landlocked. We had
Yeah.
nowhere to grow, and so they wanted to build a water treatment plant there, but it became cost prohibitive. It was going to be way too much money. People would be paying through the nose for water. We weren't going to do that. But I still felt even if we couldn't build a treatment plant, I thought it was still valuable land to have. So, yeah, so if you're coming south on 11, the one to the left that you can't really see, but you could see the buildup there.
Yeah.
That's the upper lake. That's the one that still exists.
Yeah, you'll see people fishing right in through there.
They're not supposed to be, but
but you'll see it.
well-
Well, and then the thing that's scary with the drained lake is you have these people shooting across 11 on the four-wheelers and stuff through there.
right.
Which,
That's a problem.
yeah,
Believe
so
me,
I
we
almost
know it.
pegged one night. It's like, oh my God, where are they coming from?
They buzzing around up at the upper lake, and then they go down to the lower lake area where there's some wetlands, and I think they like spinning around in the mud a little bit. Okay, and I know the Coates family that did the development down there, Oakwood Estates and stuff. I know they would love to see us be able to do something to revitalize that lake, and if there's a way to do it, we're going to explore that.
That's it.
Okay, so.
How big was the lower lake? Do you know offhand?
I don't. The upper lake, the total property is like over 400 acres. Okay, so, like I said, when we bought it, I was approached immediately as a councilman by a number of developers. I know the guys that own Yankee Run Golf Course out in Brookfield were working with the people that owned the lake before we bought it on a golf course design, and they showed me the blueprints for it. They spent a lot of
I
money.
bet you
on
that
the
had to
blueprint.
be beautiful.
It was fabulous. They had like 4 or 5 holes that went across water. They had like an island hole.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, very.
Well, and
very
see,
cool
there's
stuff.
another thing we're really losing because Fowler had the little 9-hole.
Right.
Vienna had the little driving range.
Right.
The one in Brookfield's still holding on. But
Yeah.
that would be awesome to bring
We've
another.
lost a lot of golf courses. You know what
Yeah.
else we lost in Vienna?
Oh,
was
and the
Candywood,
Candywood.
Golf Course. Now there's a great restaurant there now, and I love it. Okay.
Yep.
Like Candywood Winery, but I do miss the golf course.
Yes.
So it was a great little golf course. I played in the league out there for 20 years.
But a golf course like this that you're talking about, that could, because we've already got them attracted. Do they still call it Avalon? I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. I belong to Avalon, so yeah. But they call it Avalon. They call the one what we used to call the lakes. It's called the Grand Resort.
Okay.
Then Squaw Creek, which I grew up caddying.
Oh, I forgot about Squaw Creek.
Squaw Creek is Avalon at Squaw Creek.
That's
and
right.
They've got
That's right.
Avalon at
Still
Buell,
have those
Sharon,
two.
and Avalon at Newcastle, and So.
But boy, if you brought in something like that, and with the pond and the water, you would really attract. Like you could get the pros coming in there.
You could do some dynamic stuff there. I
Which
mean,
would be
one of the
awesome.
guys that I had walked that property with was a gentleman who's since departed. He was a great Girard Hall of Famer. His name was Pandal Savick. He was from the class of 1943 at Girard. A great story. He wrote a book. It's a tremendous book. He came to this country when he was like 9 years old, and by himself. He had family here from Macedonia. Okay.
Wow.
Trains, boats, all the way to Girard. He had family in Girard, and bright guy because they moved him up in grades. They jumped grades like by 2 grades or something like that when he was in school once he learned English. But he got out of the high school in Girard 43, went to the Marines, served his country. Then he came out and played quarterback at Ohio State. After he got out of Ohio State, became a successful businessman, and he lived in Upper Arlington. And a little kid across the street he became friends with named Jack Nicklaus. And so Pandel Savick, who was one of the founders of Muirfield Country Club with Jack Nicklaus, if you Google search Muirfield Country Club, you'll see pictures of Pandel and Jack walking through the woods out there.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, so we got to be friendly. And when we started the Hall, I started the Hall of Fame in 1997. When we started that, Pandel came up for the weekend, and that weekend I took him up there and walked those lakes. We had just bought it the year or two before that, and he said, "This is the most pristine property he's ever seen." And his son was working at the time for Pete Dye, who's one of the most world-famous golf course architects there is. And so he said, this is such a perfect property for golf. I said, well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, with that said, there's no guarantee we're going to win a golf course there. You know,
Right.
I'm going to let the public. We're going to listen to the public. A lot of people want to keep it recreational. Some want to see it developed residentially. There's a possibility we could do a little combination of all those things.
All of those things.
Yeah. So we're going to listen to people, and then, of course, ultimately the decision's going to ride with us and City Council working together, and that's the goal.
Bottom line is, you got a lot that you could do with it.
There's a lot we could do, exactly.
And another thing, I think Trumbull County in a lot of this, we're overlooked for a lot of things because the arcade, this area, we have a lot of diamonds in the rough that people don't realize.
I agree.
And there's like so much that little old towns, I mean, they're not metropolises, but they bring so much to the board.
Right.
And it's
My wife
overlooked.
likes to go out to Hartford and buy apples, and they have a little winery out there now and stuff, and so you could do a lot of things in this county. It's kind of untapped, in my opinion.
It is untapped, and they could do so much more.
As long as we could all get to start working together.
That's
that's
the key. I mean, you got to put the silly stuff.
Yeah,
and we spoke about this. About the
partisan politics I'm not a big fan of partisan politics. I've already met with, I've been a Democrat my whole life, but that means nothing in the local government scene. I mean, not that I don't. I mean, I respect the Democratic parties for sure. On a national level, it means something completely different, right?
Yeah.
On a local level, I've met with Representative Santucci, who's a Republican, fine young man. I met with Senator Sandra O'Brien, Republican. She's a fine person. We disagreed on one thing, the voucher program for schools. Being the school board president, I said, well, we're going to agree to disagree, but let's talk about things we could work on together, okay? And so I don't think there's enough of that going across the aisle to work with people, and I think I plan on doing that, and I plan on trying to mend a lot of fences as best I can.
And that's how things get done.
Right.
I mean, you can't be separate.
Can't get bogged down in the politic thing. I mean,
No.
I'm never gonna do things based on will this get me reelected. I never have done that, and I never will do that. Okay, if they don't like what I'm doing, I'm gonna put my heart and my mind and my best foot forward. And then if people don't like it, then they'll just vote me out of office. That's why
Right.
we have elections. Okay.
Right. Which brings us to the other one where we were talking off about the signs, the voting signs,
Yeah.
which I really liked what you had to say, and
Yeah, so I had my program was I didn't ask, with the old saying of signs don't vote, I made sure our signs voted, and the way we did that was we put it on our Facebook page. I'm not a big social media guy, but I had a lot of young people involved in my campaign, and they did a great job for me with the social media. We were doing interviews. We would have someone come over to my house on a Sunday night. I'd sit there with nothing in front of me. They could ask me whatever questions they want. I would answer them. We'd post it. We called it Mondays with Mark, and we'd post them, right? So, so we had a lot of great feedback from that. I believe that was a key to our campaign. But so on our Facebook page, we said if you want a sign, there's a form. You could fill it out and send it in. And we made sure. I got to be honest with you now. I'm going to tell a little secret here that if you were requested a sign and you weren't a registered voter, you probably got a response from us saying, hey, we're all out of signs. A little white lie we told, but I didn't want any non-registered voters.
oh well, that's it. I
signs.
mean, that
So-
makes total sense. If you're not voting,
Yeah.
You're not helping.
Yeah, so we knew that we could go around town, and every sign that we had in the yard, we knew those people were
We're
supportive
voters,
of us.
and they were supportive.
Absolutely.
Which I did hear like you had like almost like a little podcast thing going on of yourself. You used to use the phone and meet with people. Like a.
Oh well, like the thing I was talking about
Yeah,
with the
yes.
Facebook thing. Yeah, we were. So we had. It's funny. The night I wanted to announce my candidacy, right? I contacted every media outlet, and I asked them how to go about letting them know. Do I do a press release? I said, here, you send it to this email address, and we'll be there to cover your press conference. Okay. So I rented the Knights of Columbus Hall in Girard, right? I had about 100 people there, supporters of mine with Mark Zuppo for Mayor T-shirts on and all that. Not one media outlet showed up. Not one of the 3 TV stations.
Nobody.
The newspaper didn't show up. Yeah, it was a political thing that was going on. I won't even go there. But so I had one of my young people. I'll give her a little shout out. Emily Scarnecchia. I love her. She said, "Don't worry, Mr. Zuppo. Just go ahead and start talking. I'll live stream it on Facebook."
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. And so I just did my little 1-2 minute speech. Talked about my father, who was a policeman in Girard for years, as I was talking to you about earlier, and she live streamed it. I got about, I don't know how many hits we got. We got a lot, and I got about $30,000 worth of donations offered to me that evening, and obviously I didn't take any. And we funded it ourselves. I funded it myself. I didn't want to owe anybody anything. I don't want to. And
that's the ticket.
Yeah,
right
I don't
there.
owe anybody anything. I promised nobody any jobs. I don't believe in any of that.
There it is.
I believe in just hard work, honesty, transparency. Listen to people. Those are the things that I believe
That's
in.
what we need. And truthfully, I told you I really don't talk much politics. And you're young. You haven't really gotten into
Yeah.
politics yet.
Yeah.
That's a touchy thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem we have is exactly that, where it's like people that probably shouldn't be in jobs have been given jobs,
Right.
and it hurts us more than it helps us.
I have a theory about that. I think a lot of towns go under because a lot of people are put in positions they're not qualified
They're
for,
not qualified.
or they don't want. They just want a job. They just want a paycheck.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking for public servants. I'm looking. When people call me a politician, I have to accept it, but I resent that. I consider myself a public servant, and so that's what I want. I want people who want to be public servants that are qualified to do the job that you put them in. So I think you have to post jobs properly. You have to take applications properly. You have to interview properly. We just had this at council meeting last night. Council's trying to put together a personnel handbook. I mean, we haven't had one. There's no onboarding process. We don't even have an application. They couldn't find an application that you fill out for a job. So
Right.
a lot of those things are what I believe in, and I think the better people you put into positions to do the job, that care about the community, the better your community is going to be.
You're going to get out of it.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I will say for our area, growing up, we know
Right.
yeah, we're one of the worst ones that could be out there with all the problems. And that's the biggest thing. We need more people who get elected who think that way. And because until you do, nothing's going to really get fixed, because you are putting people that aren't qualified for this job or that job, or they don't care because they just were given this job. Like you said, it's a
Right.
paycheck, a nice paycheck maybe.
And
Yeah.
the system's broken, in my
It
opinion.
is.
You look at the national and state level. You got state reps and congressmen that have to run for office every 2 years. So you take office, and immediately you're getting a letter from them asking them for a donation for their fundraiser. They've been in office for 3 months.
Yeah.
So the system's broken, and people are always worried about getting reelected and having to promise people, promise the party, and I'm just not big into that.
No.
I promise you hard work and honesty and transparency, and then we'll go from there.
And that's truly how things get fixed.
Right.
And you're right, it's all broken, but if you start at the bottom, maybe someday we could work that that back up.
You know, Mike, so when it comes to getting involved in I respect my party and I respect the county politics and all that stuff. I helped work the Democrat Party booth at the Italian Festival in Warren a little bit, you know. So I do have respect for all that. But with that said, I think I've taken the approach that I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to show people there's a different way you can do things. There's a different model. Just like I said, starting with the signs and our campaign, you know, and the media didn't want to cover it much because every time they call you, they wanted you to say something bad about the current administration.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going. I promised our people on that opening night that I announced my candidacy, I'm not going into mudslinging. We're going to talk about our plans, what we want to do. At some point, you know, you have to address some things that the other administration, but you try to do it in as the most positive way you can without trashing people. I'm just
Right.
not a big fan of that. You know, look, I supported the prior administration for 20 years. Okay, so I'd be a hypocrite if I just suddenly jumped out and said, you know, I don't believe in anything they were doing. That's just not true.
Well, you make me want to just up and move into Girard.
Yeah. That's my goal, Mike. My goal is, you know, I've been a salesman my whole life, so my goal is sell Girard. Everywhere I go, I'm selling Girard.
And that's what you have to do for
That's
your
it.
people, for your residents.
That's it.
So is there like anything? I know you're young and you're
See, this one I coached. I coached two of her brothers,
Yeah.
and so I've known her family for a little while. Good people. The Johnsons are good people, hard worker. They know me. She probably knows me more as the hey now, the announcer
Yeah.
at Girard for the last 27 years and that kind of thing, you know. But
also you're the sports.
I've been the
you're the
public
voice of
address
Girard.
announcer for Girard for 27 years.
That's cool.
Well, this is my 27th year. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's my little Walter Mitty thing. I enjoy it. I wanted to go to be a broadcaster. Coming out of Girard in 1975, we invited a guy from Channel 33. It was me and another kid in my class who wanted to go into sportscasting. So we invited this guy from Channel 33. I won't say his name because you know that's not going to do any of us any good at this point. But I said, so hey, I was all excited. And, hey, what do you? He said, well, the hours are bad, the pay stinks, and like, oh my God! I went home and I told my dad, I go, I guess I'm not going into that, you know. It's funny because if I graduated in 1975, if I would have gone to a 4-year school for that and come out in 1979, a little company called ESPN started in 1979. You know, I've had people compare me to Chris Berman as the guy that gives everybody nicknames and that kind of thing. Not that I'm in his league, but I just thought there was a lot of sportscasting jobs that opened up to people back in the late 70s, early 80s, and you know, hey, I missed the boat on that. But like I said, this is my little Walter Mitty thing. People in town appreciate me. I've tried to actually retire from it a few times and been hit with people saying, no, you can't do that. You know, we'll carry you up to the press box if we have to. You know, so it really is an enjoyable thing for me. I can't tell. I just did a powder puff football game. I announced a powder puff football game on Saturday. It was I had a blast doing it. You know, so I'm doing it. I'm going to do something for the band. They're doing a thing called Santa the Barbarian. It's a 5-minute little thing, and I got to be. They need a narrator, so the band said, "Let's get Mr. Zuppo." You know, so I'm honored. I think the kids in Girard, I have a special relationship with most of the kids
That's
in
nice.
Girard, and that's what I love. So
It's like, well, you know, I've done this for quite a long time. I won't say exactly how long,
yeah.
but you know, coming here, and I won't share this story. I've told others this, but being a resource officer, I didn't want this school at all. Not at all. I was like, I don't want that school.
Yeah.
I actually wanted Badger, but and my reasoning was, you know, the whole aspect of a resource officer is you get to know the kids, and truthfully, you have to do that from the ground up. So the younger, well, you know, here we only have, you know, students for 2 years. Well, now that's
Yeah.
changing, but it's like as soon as I get to know you, you're out. You know, if
Yeah.
we get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, you're looking at young adults, teenagers, and you know they don't want that. Who wants that old bald-headed cop looking over their shoulder? You know, that's what I'm thinking. But you know, I came here, and my first year I was kind of like on loan, and we were short, so I was jumping to like wherever we had our school where I would go to, and I was gone. I want to say I was over in Bristol for 2 weeks, filling in, and came back, and I was actually walking down the main hall towards E&D or D&E, and a student came up to me, and he's like, "Are you okay?" Like looking at him, like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "You sure you're okay?" I'm like, "Well, I'm fine. Yeah." He goes, "You weren't here." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You haven't been here for 2 weeks." He goes, "I was worried about you." And that
Hit home.
that did, and that changed my outlook because I didn't realize just that small amount of time how much I've impacted anything. And you know what? Now it's like I don't belong anywhere else but this.
Right.
And this is my home, and this is where I belong, and I love being here. I love working with you guys. Since I've been here, started Game Night with the Deputies, which we do once a month, and then we started the podcast, Doing Time with Me, which has grown quite a bit. And I hear that you're going to have help coming your way for moving you up into the podcasting area.
Chris has offered me the opportunity to have a podcast here after the first of the year, so I told him, let me get my feet.
Yeah,
I got a lot of things to do as far as assessing resources and all that stuff, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to say it's a great arena to get people involved.
Yeah.
I just want to say this about you, Mike, and about school resource officers in general. I am a big, we've talked about the fact that my father was a policeman, right, in Girard, and I have nothing but respect for the safety service people of our world. But since I've been the school board president for a number of years, and through the pandemic and everything else we've been through,
some crazy times there.
Crazy times. So school resource officers are worth their weight in gold. They are worth their weight in gold. I will tell you that, once again, knock on wood, we haven't had a whole many incidents in Girard, and I think that's a testament to our school resource officers. The fact that they've built a level of trust with our kids. They've built relationships and rapports with our kids that they feel they can easily be approached and see something, say something. Our kids take that and utilize it all the time. And so hats off to school resource officers everywhere. I think it's a great thing that you guys do.
And what's funny about this is, I was looking for a new avenue. It's like, how can I reach out to these students? I don't like calling you guys kids because you're not kids.
Yeah.
You're young adults. And show them that I'm just a person like anybody else.
Right.
I'm a father. My oldest one graduated from here. I've coached football. I do this, I do that. There's more to me because a lot of people don't see that. They just see a uniform.
Right.
Or they see that badge. And whatever outcome they've had, if they've had dealings with the officers, or if they've heard something right away, they either like you or dislike you.
Right.
And so it's like, I need something to show them, some way to just reach out and cross those bounds. And I think this has been we're in our 4th year. So, how do you like the podcast?
Oh, I'm loving it. This is my 2nd time on it, and like you said, it really shows how great you're a great person. You're not just a cop, especially a bad one at that.
Because it's a scary. The reason I'm here, I don't even want to say because we all know why I'm here, but there's it's sad that I have to be here.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that I do have to be here because I got to do all this. And truthfully, I think if this was actually, Chris and I have talked, I said, wow, this wasn't even available when I went to school.
Right.
If this was available when I was in school, I probably would be sitting right here in this chair right now because I like this. And it was funny because Chris wasn't really big into podcasting, and one day I just wandered in. I like ghost hunting and stuff. If you guys got a haunted place, let me know about it.
Yeah, okay.
I would like to come ghost hunt it.
It's an idea.
yeah, we could talk about it on here.
I'm making a note of that, Mike.
All right. Well, speaking of Girard, so you've had sightings in Girard of Bigfoot.
I think
Crazy as
I've,
that
I've
sounds.
heard some of that. Yeah, I don't
And
know
you've
that
had-
much about it
yeah.
actually, but yeah.
So actually, there was professional Bigfoot hunters actually in Girard,
Okay.
and so he was telling me about this. Well, it happened to be on one of our teachers' property. They wanted to, because there was sightings.
Mhm.
So they ended up working with our kids. Our kids helped actually get to produce a real TV show,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. And I was like, well, I don't know about Bigfoot. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like ghosts.
Right.
So that's how this all kind of started. So we did like a Halloween thing, and then and here we are today.
It's evolved.
Yes,
You
quite a
know,
bit.
School resource officer to me is just one part of community policing. You know, if you've ever seen any shows on like, you know, you go out to some of the toughest neighborhoods in the country. You know, Compton and out in L.A. or place, and you see. I've seen a number of shows, like whether it's 60 Minutes or one of those type of news shows, where they're showing here's police officers playing basketball in the neighborhood with these kids, and that's how you got to get down to their level and see what it is that will help you develop that level of trust. And I know that we do a lot of great things in Girard. I think that's just one thing that we can add to the equation is some sort of community policing. You know, we had juvenile officers for years. When I was growing up, there was always a juvenile officer in Girard. Some reason or another, that kind of went away, and I'd like to see that come back. But I'm not even sure if I need to have that come back, or if we just need to get the whole department into the whole community policing type of mode.
Right.
You know,
And you know, another nice thing that, like we talked about earlier, you got like the arcade, the game place. You said it best. There's a place where kids, young adults, whatever, families can go and spend good time and have fun, and they're not getting in trouble somewhere else, and they're not at home on their Xbox, PlayStations. It's like you got to get out of those houses. You got to see people, and more things like that. Your parks.
Yeah.
Good thing, you know, keep kids busy in the parks. Let them, you know, somewhere where they can run, skateboard, whatever they're doing.
You hit some skateboard park. You know, it's something I'm going to be looking at. Okay, something when this current administration came into office, 2000, I actually resigned as city councilman to be his part-time recreation director until we ran out of money.
Yeah, that
You know?
that's
So we ran into a fiscal emergency.
There's
But
your niche.
but I believe in. You know, I think it's a trickle down, right? I think the more you have for kids to do, okay. You know, I used to have that philosophy with my own kids. You know, who are all adults, almost approaching middle age now. You know, but the more you had for them to do, I was like having a puppy dog, right? You get them out and run them every day, and they sleep well at night.
yes, I
right?
do.
And they're going to stay out of trouble. So not every kid plays soccer, baseball, football, basketball.
No.
Some kids are into skateboarding or something. You just find out what they're interested in and then see how we can accommodate them. That's what I'm a big believer in.
Here's something, which maybe somehow you guys could put in a huge ice rink.
Oh, already
That would-
already on that. I'm already on that. I've already made contact with some people that, yeah, that's an easy one. You know, when I was a kid, Todd Park had a little pond. Actually, my father-in-law, I didn't know him back then. I knew who he was.
Yeah.
He's since passed away. He was a great guy, Tiger DeMass. He was a wonderful guy. And he was the part-time rec director for a while. He's a school teacher, and then he ended up being an administrator, principal out at Boston Fitch. He was a coach, but he's a part-time rec director. We had a little pond over there. He'd make sure that thing, he'd get it ready for ice skating. We used to ice skate down there when we were kids. It wasn't a very big pond, but it was big enough that you get 30 or 40 kids out there ice skating. As long as there was an adult there, he'd build a fire, okay, so that they can monitor. And when I was rec director, there's a road at Liberty Park. I don't know how familiar you are there, little Miss Johnson, okay, but there's a road from El Ruth when you get inside the park there. there's a road inside the park that goes down to the main part of the park. So when I became the rec director, I said, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to buy some bales of hay. So we bought bales of hay and lined them down that road and at the end of the road, and we had sled riding. We'd freeze that road
nice.
over and we'd have sled riding down there. Kids were having a ball, and I'd always have a rec worker there, one of our part-time rec department workers there. We'd build a fire in a barrel and let the kids warm their hands, right, and stuff, with always under the guidance of the fire department. You know, so if you have every department working together, you know, you could do a lot of great things for the youth in the community.
And,
I think.
you know, that's a great thing because there's something that, I mean, well, okay, growing up, Mosquito Lake, there were no trees down there by the dam.
Right.
And we used to slide down right there by where the dam is. No one ever said anything. Well, now you can't do it no more, and they, of course, planted trees. But wintertime, you go up there, and there was cars parked everywhere with people sliding down that little hill.
Get these kids out of the house.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Get them out of the house. Get them some fresh air. Fresh air has never been a bad thing
No,
that I know
it's
of.
a good thing.
Okay.
And that's,
You know, and so in the wintertime, doesn't mean you have to be cooped up. We you know, there was 5 of us, okay, and my grandmother. So there was 8 people living in like a 1,300 square foot ranch.
you wanted out.
You wanted to get out,
You
right?
wanted out.
And I was 4 out of 5, so you had to reach fast at the dinner table, right? But wintertime, we looked forward to it. We looked forward to getting out sled riding, you know, ice skating. I wasn't a big ice skater, but I'd still go down there and hang out down by the pond. So give kids opportunities to do things, to express themselves, and the trickle down, Mike, for me is the more things kids have to do,
The less-
a lot of the crime in small towns is juvenile related.
Yes.
Okay, so the more recreational activities you give them, offer them, the less crime. The crime rate's going to go down. It's just a
Yes.
osmosis. Okay.
Yeah,
You know,
'cause they're busy.
yeah,
And
keep
they're
them
doing
busy.
busy, positive ways.
Keep them busy.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with you guys 100%. Like, with the ice skating rink, that would be awesome to have
Wouldn't
that
it
in
be?
Girard. That would be awesome. I know a couple winters ago, I think we had a snow day. There was so much snow. And me and my brother and some of our friends, we went down to Todd Park and down by the baseball
no idea
fields
what snow is.
with that big hill and like right by the fence, we would slide
Right,
down those. It
right.
was super fun to get out of
Which
the house
brother?
and be able to
Jordan.
with
yeah,
Jordan.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I told you I lived on the west side of Warren.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar, but what is it? Austin Avenue, Quimby Park.
I'm not
They had
familiar.
3 ponds actually.
Uh-huh.
Now I don't even know if there's a pond there.
Right.
But the center one was a night they had the lights and everything, and you'd ice skate, and then there's a pavilion, and they would have hot cocoa and
Right.
fire going,
Right.
and everybody would come and ice skate.
See, like at Todd Park, you don't have the pond anymore, right? They had to fill the pond in years ago. Okay. But you could buy things now. You could take your basketball courts and turn them into ice skating rinks
Yeah.
quite easily.
Yeah.
There's devices you could buy, and you just freeze them, put some water out there and freeze it, and you're ready to go. It happens. It's happening all over the place, except in Girard. I got news for you. It's going to happen in Girard. So
I'll share. All right, this is my one of my fantasies of what I would love to do. Old 82 going down the hill towards Sharon. Wouldn't it be cool to sled down that?
oh my gosh.
100 miles.
That
Wow.
is a huge hill. That would be I remember when my cousin, when I was a kid, Soapbox Derby was big. And there was a spot on Mahoning Avenue that they used and that hill is nothing compared to that one. I know the hill because I play golf at Yankee Run.
Yeah,
all the time.
yes.
So when you go up over the hill, what is that little restaurant or bar?
Oh,
Laddie's?
Yes.
Laddie from there down into Sharon, man, there's a huge drop.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be really cool, yeah. But yeah, more things you do for kids, the better off your
Off it
community
is.
is.
Yes, it is.
Kids are happy, parents are happy, crime rate's down, everybody's getting a good night's sleep. That's how I look at it.
So, well, I heard that you actually wanted to do the whole podcast, which brings us to my favorite time, which is That's Embarrassing.
Okay.
Oh, you should have heard mine. I shared mine.
That's embarrassing.
Well, would you like to share an embarrassing or funny moment with us?
I can't really think of it. It's like you got the spotlight on you once you ask the question. Everything leaves. It's like I can't think of anything. I can't think of one right now. I
All right.
have none.
None. Any falls? We all do silly things. Do you know what I hate? Like, I always wear my food. A brand new shirt, sit there, you go out to eat, try it, and then it's like, oh, I almost made this through the dinner. And then bloop.
I'm the same way, Mike. It's, I used to get on my mom's case because I said, Mom, every blouse you have has some stain on it or something, because she was always dropping food on her
Food.
stuff.
I think my family takes bets on me. They really do.
Yeah.
I think it's always against me, though.
My dad used to say I'd leave crumbs on a chair everywhere I went, even if there was nothing that made crumbs. I'd still find a way to make crumbs. So.
Well, do you have a funny or an embarrassing moment you would like to share?
Well, I got way too many embarrassing moments, but I think one of my biggest, most embarrassing moments was at announcing a game, and I went completely brain dead. At the end of the game, I always say the same thing, right? I mean, I say, this is me reminding you, if you can't play a sport, be one. Good night, Seymour, wherever you are, right? So, and that was about this little girl on my very first game. I used to call her Seymour, and she was like 5 years old, and she used to sit right below the press box, the last seat up against the press box. Her parents had that season tickets there forever. And so I said, well, the first night I do the first game, I'm going to say, good night, Seymour, and I'll wave to you, right? Well, I went, good night, Seymour, and she wasn't there. So I said, wherever you are, right? So I think it was a couple years ago. It was a crazy basketball game, and there was a lot of, there might have been some physical altercations at the end of the game and stuff,
One of those crazy games.
Yeah, it was kind of not one that you're real proud of, as far as the kids and the coaches and the referees and all that happy stuff. And I think I said at the end of the game, I said, good night. And I went completely brain dead. I couldn't remember Seymour. After 20-some years of saying it, I went completely dead. And someone yelled, Seymour.
Seymour.
And I went, oh, yeah, that's right, Seymour.
That's funny.
So that was one of them. I mean, I got some that are far worse than that, but I don't think your listeners want to hear some of those.
You know what's funny is the fact that somebody knew your line.
Oh, it's a signature line.
Everybody knows.
After every single game.
Everybody knows.
Always.
And when I get up in the booth, before I say anything, I say, hey now, right? And so I'll walk into I'll be walking into I went there for the veterans. They had a veterans activity on assembly on Friday morning. Very well done. Kids write essays about somebody in their family that's a veteran, and we have all these veterans of these kids there in attendance. It's really well done. And I'm walking in and I hear, one kid goes, hey now, another kid goes, hey now, and the next thing you know, you got like about 10 kids saying, hey. So, you know what? It really warms my heart when they do that. I got to be honest with you.
It is. That's cool. And the fact that they know, and
that's all.
That's
It's not a big deal. It's not rocket science. It's nothing. It's just connecting. I've just always been about connecting with people, and so I made a career out of it in sales. And I used to tell people I'd walk at the end of my career, like I was mentioned earlier. I was in corporate accounts, so I had to do these huge. We had five divisions in my company. They were out of the UK, and so we'd have this big meeting at the University Hospital or the Cleveland Clinic. We'd have 20 people from our team and 30 people from their team, and I have to lead this whole thing. And I'd start off by saying, okay, let's get one thing straight. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, we're going to have a real problem on our hands, right? So a little self-deprecating humor could take you a long way, and that's and that was always my thing. And I'd say, look, I'm not the most clinically astute person. I don't claim to be the smartest, but I will always answer your phone call. If I can't get to the phone, I will always call you back. I will always call you within 24 hours, and I won't lie. People have a misconception of salespeople that they'll sugarcoat just tell them the truth, and they could deal with it better. You know?
Right.
So anyway,
So let's move on to shout out times.
It's shout out time.
So you're not limited to one shout out.
so who do I want to give a shout out to?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. Let's see. So, well, I already gave Emily Skarnecki a shout out. Okay.
You could do it again.
So, here's a shout out to Emily. A shout out to Amanda Rafferty, as I call Toonie. Okay. A shout out to my daughter Therese Meekin. Those three were the cornerstone of my campaign. And then my whole family. My son Mark came in from Cleveland. He lives up in Independence, and he would come in on the weekend and go walking, knocking on doors. My son Matt was out there running around, putting signs up with some of my friends, Tom Ezzo, Ray Davis. Let's see, Augustino Ragazzino was out there knocking on doors for me. Rick McCracken was knocking on doors. Our former athletic director, Joe Capizzello, a dear friend, was out knocking on doors with me. Leah and Gordon Byrne, who have a son in the at West Point right now, who just became a cadet. So shout out to Dante for getting his cadet recently, and all the people in my campaign that helped, but most importantly, for my wife for putting up with me for 44 years. And our anniversary is what's today's date? I forgot the date. Well, our anniversary is on the 24th, so it'll be 44 years on November 24th.
We're at the 14th.
There you go. We got 10 days away, and I better have something really special planned for her. I know that. So
well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm gonna shout out my 3 teachers, academic teachers, who were able to let me be on this podcast today: Miss Baker, Mr. Street, and Mrs. Wise.
Thank you for letting her come.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I do have some shout outs. I would like to shout out to the Hotspot again, of course. They take care of us on game night, popcorn and cookies. So thank you for that. And I'd like to shout out for Joe and Joe for Bellaria's Pizza and Niles, because they're also taking care of us, giving us a really good deal for our pizzas that we get. That comes actually out of our own pocket. So that's nice that somebody's helping out. So thank you very much, Niles, Bellaria. And I think that's about it, right? Oh, you got any upcoming events that you might want to? Let's go to things to know before we go. I'm sorry.
Things to know before you go.
It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Real fast, is there anything going on in your community that you would like to let anybody know about?
Oh boy.
It's always something.
Yeah, there's always something. Well, basketball seasons. I still help out coaching junior high boys basketball. This is a volunteer, just to be another adult there on the bench with those kids who are suffering from self-esteem issues and all the other kind of stuff that a junior high kid goes through. So we got that, and the boys and girls basketball will be tipping off, and I'll be announcing those games and having a blast doing that. January 1st, I'll be getting sworn in by Judge Adler. I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Adler for getting reelected. He's a great guy, and looking forward to working with him down at Girard Municipal Court. And other than that, thanks to all the people that voted for me out there.
Do you know of anything going on in your neck of the woods? Well, you're in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah. I don't know of anything. No, I haven't heard of anything new happening.
I'll give you one more thing, Mike. I got just,
go ahead.
because I have to give a speech tomorrow night, so I should throw that out. The National Honor Society ceremony is tomorrow night at Girard High School at 6 o'clock. So it'll be my last speech as a school board president, and I want to thank my fellow board members for allowing me to get my swan song in there. So
nice. So real fast, not to get off that subject, but did you? So being the mayor, you had to give that spot up.
Yeah. So actually, you could serve both,
okay,
but you can't run for both in the same year. So
Okay.
my term was up, and I would have had to run for school board in November, and you can't be on the ballot for 2 things, right?
Gotcha.
So the treasurer's position was up. It was not up. It's a midterm, so I'll have to resign from that position. School board position, I will just leave naturally. Someone's actually been reelected. I'll throw a shout out to Joe Castor Jr., who's going to be a new school board member. He's going to do a great job. We got a nice mix there with some Diane Algiers, Sue Ellen Davis, who have been there for a long time, and they represent a different age group, right? And then you got Vince Ragazine, Joe Datchick, and Joe Castor, 3 younger people. I think it's a great mix of people, and they're going to keep moving the needle forward. I think we've got great things going on, Girard.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it. Until next time, everybody take care, and please hit those like buttons. Take care, everybody.